Hi, my name is Chris Wood. I'm the President and CEO of Trout Unlimited, and I have the pleasure of sharing with you some wonderful news today. The U.S. Congress just passed one of the most significant and far-reaching land and water conservation bills in the past 5 years. This is the result of many years of hard work by TU volunteers and TU staff people at all levels of the organization. And it's going to result in several 100,000 acres of lands and waters being protected and better managed for hunting and fishing and habitat protection. One of the places that will be protected are 26,000 acres of land in the pine forest wilderness. This is in northern Nevada. This is an extremely popular area for hunting and fishing. For about 8 years, TU has worked on the ground with local stakeholders to come up with a way that would protect land and water in that area will also allow for traditional uses. It was such a model of collaborative stewardship that the Nevada State Assembly passed a resolution commending the stakeholders for their work on that. In a similar way, we had tremendous bipartisan support for land protection in Colorado, where the entire Hermosa Creek watershed will be protected. This is a hugely important fishery for Colorado River cutthroat trout. It's one of the most genetically pure strains of that deeply imperiled species. And we have land protection for the watershed, a very novel approach to protecting the adjacent watershed while also designating significant amounts of wilderness in there that will allow for hunting and fishing while perpetually protecting the habitat. Finally, in New Mexico, we've got significant land protection in two really important areas for wild and native fish. First, we're going to see the Valles Caldera transition to management by the National Park Service. Importantly, they will allow hunting in the area and we think significantly improve fishing opportunity and fishing access. Another area where TU has been hard at work from the grassroots level all the way through the national organization has been in the Columbine-Hondo Wilderness. This is a special place for several reasons. First of all, it happens to be in the Carson National Forest, which is the national forest where Aldo Leopold, the father of the modern wilderness movement, was once a forest supervisor, and where he contrived this idea of protecting large expanses of land and water for the use and benefit of present and future generations. It also happens to have a deeply imperiled population of Rio Grande cutthroat trout, and the wilderness designation will ensure that those are protected and better managed into the future so that we can begin to see the recovery of that deeply imperiled species. Now, with these 3 or 4 bills that I've just mentioned, share in common is the fact that TU at the staff level and at the volunteer level were there from the very beginning, in some cases over many, many years, working to make those things come to fruition. But this bill is actually more extensive than just those places. It includes lands, for example, in Montana that will be protected that are significant from a trout and cold water fisheries perspective. And the one thing that every one of these measures shares in common is that none of them would have been possible without the leadership, the bipartisan leadership of people like Congressman Daines and Congressman Amodei and Congressman Tipton, and in the Senate through the leadership of people like Majority Leader Reid and Senator Heinrich and Senator Tester and Senator Udall and Senator Heller. Let's hope that this ushers in a new bipartisan period of cooperation where the members of the Congress will allow common sense to common problems for the common good to prevail and to work together and set aside partisan bickering and differences. Because the one thing we all share in common in this country is a love and a passion for the great outdoors that help to define who we are as Americans. That's what the U.S. Congress needs to focus on, and that's what this bill is all about. On behalf of the staff and the members of Trout Unlimited, I want to thank the hundreds, if not thousands, of TU members and volunteers who donated their time, their talent, and their treasure to make this happy day a reality. And you have my deepest thank you and the deepest thank you of Trout Unlimited for all your great work.